Thanks for joining us here on the Akamai Partner Champions podcast. Now, before we begin with our interview today, I've got three quick things I want to say to you guys. First, it's October, spooky season, hence my amazing mug filled with pumpkin spice latte. But I thought this would be a good opportunity to give you guys my favorite Halloween costume, because if you don't come here for cybersecurity and partnership stories, really, there's just the jokes and the extra things make this a lot more fun for everybody. And so here's all you're going to need. One gray t-shirt, one bag of cotton balls, one little tube of crazy glue, and a spray bottle. And I want you to just take little bits of glue, dab it on the cotton balls, and put it on the t-shirt. And when you walk into the party and everyone's dressed to the nines, they're going to come up to you and say, "Hey, what are you supposed to be?" And here's what you do. You just take the spray bottle and you say, "Why, I'm partly cloudy," with a chance of sprinkles. It's interactive. It doesn't cost a lot. It's clever. You're welcome. But seriously, the more important thing I am here to talk about is it's October, which also means it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so on the Akamai Partner Champions podcast, we will have two fantastic guests who specialize in security to help keep those topics top of mind with both you and your customers. And last but certainly not least, my guest today, Mr. Mark Thornberry of GuidePoint Security. And so before I dive into the interview with him, I wanted to share, if you guys want to see what the partnership looks like, if you actually want to experience it in the flesh, well, the best way to do that is to actually go to one of our field events. And GuidePoint has these fantastic events called GPSec or GuidePoint Security Conferences, where they talk about everything from zero trust, application security, identity, the whole gamut. So we will be in Philly on October 29th with GuidePoint at the GPSec conference there, as well as Orlando, Florida on November 13th. So again, if you're in those areas, make sure you come out to those events because they're going to be fantastic. But without further ado, let's kick it over to our interview. Take it away, Nick and Mark. Welcome, partners, and welcome, customers, to the Akamai Partner Champions podcast. I am your host and old pal, Nick Watkins, and I am delighted to be joined by the SVP of Partnerships for GuidePoint Security, Mr. Mark Thornberry. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Now, before we dive into the interview, I am so excited to talk to you because as I was planning for this interview and talking with some of our reps, I was getting a lot of good lucks, but also a lot of "don't screw this up." And the reason I think I was getting some of those is because every time that I've planned an event or done anything with GuidePoint, and this is going back to No Name Security days, there's always this genuine excitement from Michelle Shear, Danny Brinkley, Kendall Hagney. Like, all these people always love working with GuidePoint. And the thing that I love about that is that you cannot manufacture that. I'm in marketing. I would love it if all of our reps were fired up to work with GuidePoint. And so the reason I wanted to open with this is because if you're a partner listening and you want to know a blueprint for a great partnership, the man to my left is a fantastic example, and GuidePoint is a fantastic example of what a great partnership looks like. And hey, if you're a customer, this is why Akamai is a 100% channel go-to-market company. And so this is really the sum of, when you take Akamai and GuidePoint, it's like 1 + 1 = 3. It's we are greater than the sum of our parts. So without further ado, because I know that was quite a tee up.
A lot of kind words there. We appreciate that. And it's obviously, this is a relationship business, and those are, Michelle and the other folks that you kind of mentioned, we've known for years, and they put a lot into the partnership and, before the acquisition, through the acquisition, everything else. So, and obviously we've got an outstanding partnership with Akamai. So looking forward to chatting about it for sure.
Absolutely. So our first question, let's do a quick introduction. So can you start by telling us a bit about your background and your role at GuidePoint Security?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. So yeah, as SVP of Partnerships, essentially what that means is that I oversee and our organization is responsible for, scaling, identifying, working with all of our partners across the entire company. Now, that means it's about an ecosystem, about 800 vendors roughly. So we got a pretty good sized team. I'm going to give them a plug. I'm a little biased, of course, but I think that they're the best in the business. I'm very fortunate to be their, fearless leader, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But they make me look good. It's all them. It's all the work that they do. But yeah, I oversee the partnerships organization. My entire background's been on the go-to-market side. I started my career kind of coming up. Actually, I started my career at CDW. So I was in inside sales, and then I quickly realized that like this channel thing is interesting, right? So as I learned about what a CAM, what's this acronym CAM or NAM or whomever, And I realized quickly that that is what I wanted to do, right? I had a young son at the time. I'm like, this looks like a place where I can, make maybe a little bit more money, have a little bit more career development, and have a lot of fun too, and learn in the process. And that goes back about 15 years or so. I jumped to the vendor side, a number of just channel roles. National partners, regional partners, got a really diverse, set of experiences in a pretty quick amount of time when I look back at it, right? Then I ended up at one company that got acquired by Cisco. That was, that was a game-changing experience for me. Great experience overall. From a professionalism standpoint, you kind of learned a lot of things. You had a lot of access to partners and folks that I maybe didn't before, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up a lot. And then, I'm a glutton for punishment, so went back to the startup game. And then that actually, that's how I got to know who GuidePoint Security was and kind of what we do. And, I've been here 5 years, and I mean, I'll say it, I talk about it consistently in any time I'm given the chance to. It's, the most fulfilled, happiest, challenging, rewarding, job that I've ever had. And I'm appreciative of my time that I've had here. And honestly, like you get the feeling that while we've started to build something great, we've got great momentum, there's still so much more to go do. And that's really what I'm kind of always kind of talking about to the vendor community, and most importantly to my team.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like both being in the channel and cybersecurity, that's like 5 years concentrated from like a normal job. Every 1 year that we do is just like it's like dog 100%. You took the words out of my mouth. It's like it ages you, but it gives you the wisdom of like, I had someone say to me, earlier in my career that like when you're at startups and you're at these companies at various stages, you get a PhD, in the amount of time that it, in a 1 to 2 year that it takes to get an associate's degree or something, or something of that nature, right? So like you just learn a lot in a very condensed timeline, and I'm appreciative of that. It helps me in this role. I do think that me, and then a lot of the folks, the profile folks on our team, is that a lot of them do come from the vendor side, and they have distribution experience, or they've been in similar roles at other partners. I really think that, and I do talk about this quite often, is you don't really kind of understand the go-to-market engine, with partners until you kind of work at a partner. Right.
You can have, and look, we have a lot of friends that are out there that have been doing this for decades on the vendor side. I'm just telling you, it's changed my perspective on things in a way that I couldn't have envisioned.
I can imagine, man. It's crazy, but it's a fun ride. And I think it's nice being on that cutting edge as well, being in the cybersecurity space as well. Now, let's continue on the GuidePoint thread. I do want to ask, what's the story with GuidePoint Security, and how has the company evolved over time?
Yeah, no, it's happy to talk about. I light up when I talk about it. I've been told that we've been around since 2011, so working on, I think we're in year 14, year 15, right around there. DC based, pure play cybersecurity. When I say that's all that we do, there's a million things that we can do. I think that one of the things that I've come to appreciate most about GuidePoint is that we have an identity. We know who we are. We know what we do. We're customer first. Even how we've built our business kind of from the early days and when regions kind of boot up, so to speak, it's been all about the customer. The customer is at the center of everything that we do. In addition to that, the vendor community. I think that just when you look at the vast network of vendors that we interact with, be it large and, the large companies that you think of all the way on down through, the no names of the world, for examples. We like to lean in early. That's kind of been our ethos as a company. We like to know about innovative tech. If there's a solution that's out there, a technology out there that can solve a customer pain in a unique way, we want to know about it. And we want to solve our customers' challenges in a very creative and new way, because the thing that we found over the years is that, now the security buyer, several different personas that are in cyber are more educated than they've ever been. There's more access to information. They don't want to know about what they already know about. They say, tell me about something that I haven't heard of before, or maybe a similar customer in an industry that I'm unfamiliar with, or there's a technology out there, there's a new way. That is typically where we come in and where we really have separated ourselves from the rest of the pack, in my humble opinion.
No, absolutely. I mean, even working for like a previous cybersecurity company, I remember you guys had won like the partner of the year at that company I was with. And then like, even when I jumped over to No Name and I was like planning partner awards, I think GuidePoint walked away with like 9 of 14 of like the all total amount of awards we had. But I mean, yeah, to your point, like API security is very similar in that way where it's just like people didn't really have a lot of visibility of it. And now it's like we go out to these trade shows or we go talk to different people and they finally understand like, oh, we pay attention to these things. So to your point, like working with these cutting edge companies or figuring out what's that next space where people are going to go to, I think is really exciting. And I think is just something really cool to talk about.
No, absolutely. And, we pride ourselves on, not just being first, to kind of identify some of these companies, but the depth and breadth of our technical knowledge and expertise is frankly unparalleled in the industry. And that's, kind of going down that, you mentioned kind of like the no name side of things. When you all were engaging with us, like we're just like, we find different areas. We find different vendors, we find different areas of technology that are relevant customer pains. And we really, we help these really innovative companies kind of achieve scale, and we give them the time and attention that traditionally, like if you, as a channel person, right, like they just, it takes a while to get to that point. We are passionate about that. So like we help these companies scale. And then, the other interesting thing is, the people side of it, too, where you see folks at a No Name or certain companies. I'm just going to keep going back to No Name. Of course, keep giving you the
I
plug
appreciate
there.
it, yeah.
And, where they end up at these other companies that are kind of building something. I want to be the first call that they make. And in a lot of cases, and it's a position we take very seriously, we are. And that's just something that we want to continue on. And we've got a lot of momentum right now and we're appreciative of it, but it's something that we'll always keep our eye on for sure as we continue to grow.
Absolutely. Well, since we've been talking about No Name, and obviously we've got the Akamai acquisition that came with it, I want to talk a little bit about partnerships. And so just to start out, what in your opinion makes a great partnership?
Oh, my favorite question. I get asked that, near daily. There's a lot of different ways you can take it. I mean, at the end of the day, partnerships are about, a true relationship that is developed, that is reciprocal and built over time with trust, right?
Right.
And I think that those two kind of things are sometimes overlooked, and I don't think one, matters more than the other. But in cyber especially, where there's just so much intimacy and trust involved with us, with our customers, we've got to trust our partners that we build. Like we love innovative new tech, but again, these are things that are relationships that are built, and tested. They're tried and tested is what I'm struggling to say.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just something that doesn't happen overnight. And I think that people sometimes get into the thought process that you do all the right things and it's an immediate, just like anything else, like it's just going to take off and go quickly. From our perspective, we have some incredible relationships that go back decades that, that we're very proud of. But I mean, it's truly reciprocal. You look out for one another, and, we practice what we preach on that front. And I'm just constantly talking about, how, for example, like a big area of it is how negative situations are handled. Right. How much communication is there? These are not things that maybe show up on a scoreboard, somewhere or as a stat. But overall, like that tends to be how, reps and leaders and, engineers and everyone, like how they measure the partnerships. It's not when things are going great. It's when things are kind of maybe potentially have the ability to go sideways.
Right.
How do you handle those situations? I know that's a lot of words,
but you said it perfectly. Like the thing I loved that you said was trust, right? And so like one of the things I'm speaking purely from a marketing perspective is like, we put trust into GuidePoint because you always deliver. And so what I mean from that was like, whether we're doing the Black Hat Party, which is a staple now of the Vegas summer, or, you guys doing the lounge downstairs at Black Hat, or, the GPSec events, like every single time we've done those, it's like, you have high value clients, you have these long-standing relationships. And so you've consistently delivered on those things that has really made, a vendor like Akamai really just embrace the partnership. And so to your point, I just think trust and showing that you can deliver on those things, I think is really, that answered my question perfectly.
Yeah, good. I mean, the other thing I'll kind of add is like just doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
I think we do that really well. And again, going back to your comments around kind of our presence, at Black Hat, this year, we're everywhere, right? And we do take delivering very seriously, delivering for our clients, delivering for our vendors. We want it to be And I think we're doing this really well as a company. We can always improve, but we want them to have a unique experience in interacting with us, right? And I think that, everything that we did this year at Black Hat, as an example, is very experiential in nature. Be it our lounge, be it the airport, be it, the party at the golf club, just unique, fun, and just there to kind of support. Cool.
All right, that was a good answer. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what was the driving force between GuidePoint's decision to partner with Akamai?
Yeah, I mean, there's several. I mean, as we're evaluating technologies, I think first and foremost, you'll hear usually anything that comes out of our mouth first is going to be about customers, right? So I think that when you look at Akamai, it's a known and trusted brand. You have a first-rate, world-class customer base. I think that, when you are a known brand, and we have several profiles of vendors that we work with, right? Some are known, some are the no names of the world.
Exactly.
No names of the world, right? There's those, but in the case of Akamai, like there's that trust, because we need to know that when we put any solution in front of a customer, it's gonna be a good experience for them. It's going to work, and they're gonna get value out of it. Those are the most important things. And I would say Akamai kind of fits the bill, and it solves because there's a number of things that Akamai does, right? It's wide, it's far ranging. There's just the opportunity to work on a lot of different interesting projects, and the pains that we're trying to solve for our customers are relevant ones. Like it's not, too niche. There's a lot of that in cyber right now, which is totally fine. Again, we care about, vendors and technologies, of all shapes and sizes, right? Not everyone is going to become Akamai, right? But in this particular case, Akamai and they've just been a good business partner to us.
Yeah.
Like there's, again, there's data points that we have around, performance and, how the numbers look and things like that. But like overall, they've just been good people, which is, kind of first and foremost. We have like a no jerks policy is one of our core pillars of our company. You guys, I mean, I would say Akamai as a company kind of adheres to that and aligns with us really well.
Yeah, that is really well put. And I love your explanation too, because I think sometimes with having a portfolio as broad as Akamai's can be sometimes challenging, but at the same time, like that just makes us a puzzle piece that you guys can then position where maybe it makes sense for WAF or API security or any of these different pieces, is that then you can use your consultative approach to really be able to find the right fit for the customer. And that just speaks to that customer first approach that you mentioned. All right. And so now I want to talk a little bit about emerging partnership trends. I was curious, how do you see the trend of vendor consolidation impacting buying behavior, and how is GuidePoint positioning itself in this environment?
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting topic, especially around vendor consolidation, because I do speak pretty openly about this. We are one of the few partners that I'm aware of, in our industry, in cyber specifically, that are experiencing and are kind of executing on and working with vendors on the consolidation front. So platform or platformization is kind of a new term apparently, but also best of breed. Like we're doing both at the same time. And I don't think that, it's just I am of the opinion that, we are of the opinion that one doesn't necessarily matter more than the other. Like if there's an up and coming vendor that a lot of people don't know about, but they're the best at what they do, like we're going to want to work with that vendor. We're going to want to work with them a bunch if it's a large, high upside TAM area where we can help, a number of customers, right? A large number of customers. But also, you have certain vendors that especially in the larger, more complex environments where you have a lot of vendor sprawl. And they just don't want to necessarily add another contract, another contact, another anything, frankly. And if they have a partner, a business partner, a vendor that can do a number of those things, for sure. And we're seeing both. I mean, we absolutely are. And, again, I think it helps that we have such a wide array of partnerships at our disposal that you see these trends kind of exist at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And then can you quickly just discuss the role of partnerships in GuidePoint's overall growth strategy?
Yeah, I mean, we are, at the core of what we do, that's all we do. It's partnerships, right? Be it partnerships with our customer, partnerships with the vendor community. We've experienced a lot of success over many years in being consistent. And, we can't do that without partnerships, right? And of all shapes and sizes too. They all matter. The interactions and the experiences that you have with GuidePoint, I think, again, you've heard me say it, over the last couple minutes, it's unique, right?
Well, it's like whether you're a 200-person startup like a No Name or a 12,000-person company like Akamai, like I feel like that same degree of care, of consideration that you guys have brought to these partnerships that you guys have exuded. Like, I think that is a huge testament to your overall philosophy of what you do in partnerships.
It is. It's built into the very like fiber. It's built into the fabric of our company. Everything you just said is totally spot on. And then we do approach those interactions and those partnerships, the same way, because we can't predict the future. Things are growing really quickly, as we know. Just walk on the floor, you see there's thousands of vendors. The chances are somewhere down there is the next CrowdStrike or next Okta or the next wave of the next great security company, and it's just humble beginnings, and that's how we started as a company.
Yeah,
we're doing a lot more now, but there's a lot that goes into scaling and growing your business, and partnerships are at the core of that.
I love that. Now, as someone who recently went through an acquisition myself, and I understand that you've also been through an acquisition as well, I always think it's fascinating to see all that goes into it. So whether it's, it's not just brand or people or technology coming over, but there's just, it comes with a whole lot. And I think you are uniquely positioned to really talk about, what it's like going through an M&A and, looking, having been part of one yourself, can you share your perspective on M&A, on the M&A experience?
Yeah, no, happy to. I mean, yes, I kind of have a unique view having gone through one myself. And I was at a company called OpenDNS. We were bought by Cisco Systems. And it was a great experience. It was honestly one of the highlights of my career. I grew up a lot there, learned a ton. Great company. Both companies are great companies, great cultures, kind of all around. And then, obviously there's a ton of acquisition activity in cybersecurity space in general right now. The interesting thing, and we talked a lot about that this week, and I talk about it consistently, is we are typically, when you lean in, you have first mover advantage. Like we've leaned in with vendors, really early on. We have the advantage of when a company like an Akamai or some of the other more established players out there snatch up some of these companies and they integrate them into their portfolio. We've already been working with them for years. It's funny because I have a lot of these conversations out at these events and out in the market. And it's like when you see company that, there was one this week, I won't mention it by name, but it's an AI company. And it's like, they're a 2-year-old company, but we've been working with them for a year or close to a year.
Right.
And then point being that's just how we approach kind of the market and how we approach the partnerships. I think that, we always keep a keen eye on, and we do it on behalf of our customers.
Right.
We do have pretty sizable businesses, as you can imagine, when you factor in services and everything around a lot of the larger vendors, or some of the larger vendors anyways. And we want to know how these acquisitions and because it's in our DNA, like the no names of the world, we have substantial businesses and investment with them as well. Just we've invested in how we work with them. We've invested in marketing. We've done a lot. We've invested in relationships, things like that. We always want to keep an eye on how those things are going to be impacted. How long will things remain separate? There's just a lot of different things that we observe, and it's very common right now.
Right. But I think it speaks to your overall kind of ethos of our entire conversation, which is it's all built on relationships, because the name on the banner may change, but the people, that's consistent.
The phrase that I've been using lately is, the name, a lot of people do business with the name on the back of the jersey, not the name on the front, right? So it's like that is what security is about. And I think a lot of, when people kind of ask us some of our secret sauce, without giving every secret,
of course.
But one of them, definitely being, the people, right? And I think that people kind of sometimes overlook that, security, like I said it earlier, there's just so much trust and intimacy involved. And I use those words intentionally because that's what it is. It's built up over years. There's so much riding on these relationships that they have, right? So you have to trust who you do business with and, who you're spending your time with. And that's where we're fortunate that, our clients, we hire really, really good people that have those relationships that built up over so much time.
Yeah. It's not just one deal, man. I mean, it's just every little interaction, every email, every call. I mean, they all make a difference. And so I'm with you on that one. And so I'm taking us to our final question, because I think this has been a tremendous conversation. But my favorite thing about hosting this podcast, I get to talk to cool people who are infinitely successful and get to I always like to know what really drives you. And so looking at kind of the scope of your career and hearing your story and hearing about your experience with GuidePoint, I was curious, what surprised you about your current role? Was there something you weren't expecting? Something that you were like, oh, this is kind of cool? And did something end up becoming like your favorite part of your job? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting question. When I look at just me as a person, me as a professional, et cetera, the biggest thing that's pretty consistent in my life through, the early years coming up playing sports or what have you, or, as you get into professional world, it's just coaching, developing, mentoring, team. I'm a team first, team always person. I think that you'll find that that's how there's a great intersection for me personally. And why I think this role has been so interesting to me is that like partnerships, friendships, relationships, it's all kind of converges,
Right.
And there's nothing that I love more than seeing people I've met over the many years, kind of go on that I maybe have a mentorship relationship with, or that I provide some career coaching, or, talk through different scenarios, whatever that may be, kind of go on to different roles and, just continue to develop as a person, as a professional. And then on my team, like I said, and another plug for them. I think we've got the best team in the business, and my goal as a leader is always that they end up in a much better position than when they started, right? And that might mean a certain skill that needs to be developed. Help them do that, putting them in position to take on bigger partnerships and be more visible, because it takes those at bats. It takes repetition. I'd say that's one of the areas that I get the most, satisfaction from.
Yeah.
Like it just, on kind of all fronts.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm going to drop a really bad pun, but it's almost like you really enjoy making your mark on someone.
Oh boy.
I know. I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry.
I'll allow it.
The canned laughter,
No, we'll allow that.
I got to end on a bad joke. I'm a dad, man.
It's okay. Listen, what would a podcast be if it didn't have a couple
bad jokes? Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I had a great time talking with you. Now, for all of our customers out there, you want to see more about the GuidePoint and Akamai partnership story, come out and join us at one of our GPSec events. Well, your GPSec events where we happen to show up and sponsor. And so I think that would be a great way to just learn a little bit more about the partnership and see how we can help you. So thank you again, Mark, and thank you to our audience. And we'll see you on the next one.
Cool. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.